And have a listen to this. Have a listen to this.
Interest rates are higher. I know people don't like that, but you should be welcoming a stronger economy.
And maybe a deal has a point about the machinery of capitalism being oiled with the blood of the
The
worker.
United States is a country that has always paid all of its bills.
Lannister always pays his debts.
Don't let the bastards get you.
Hello and welcome to Comedian versus Economist. We demystify the world of money and help you get a handle on the bigger picture. My name's Adam and we're joined as always by my little older brother and real-life economist, Thomas. Hi, Thomas.
Yeah, g'day, Adam. How you going?
Very good. Thank you, Thomas. Our final episode for a couple of months while we take a little short hiatus to go off and take care of some business. So, look, all I can suggest is just leave yourself subscribed. Or better still, if you're not subscribed to our show, then why not go and subscribe to the show now? And you'll be notified as soon as we are back on air. But for now, Thomas, massive show coming up as always. Where are people shopping exactly if best and less is now too expensive? Wealthy shoppers apparently are now shopping at Aldi. I guess even the rich like to save on things like bread, milk, night vision goggles and log splitters. Can you have your cake and eat it too if cake is curbing inflation and eating is supporting local business? But first, Thomas, the Bank of England raised rates by another 50 basis points. What impact, if any, do you think this will have on the remaining 4 tests in the current Ashes series?
Oh, is that still a thing?
Is that still a thing? It was the one of the greatest test matches ever played last week, Thomas. People hearing this now are probably already putting in preparations for the next test starting tonight, their time. So is this still a thing?
Yeah,
this is,
right. No, it's good.
This is reason
nice.
number 323 why I think we're possibly not related.
Yeah, right. No, it's good. It's good to have traditions like that and Morris dancing and things. Oh, well, that's good.
Anyway, enough about the cricket. What has the Bank of England been up to? What did they do?
Yeah, well, they hiked 50 basis points. That shocked markets. Markets were shocked. Did not see that coming.
Didn't see the rise or didn't see the 50 bips?
The 50. You
the 50
didn't see
was the thing.
So it's the 13th hike in a row, like a lot of other places, but they had slowed that pace down to 25 for 3 or 4 months.
Right.
Giving people the sense that the peak was in and that things were slowing.
They were just tailing off. People felt like they were just gradually easing. We're drawing to a halt here. It's the train coming to rest at the station.
That's right, yeah.
And then the driver of the train just planted his foot.
That's right. Everyone fell over the drinks trolley. Yeah. No, that was the reaction. People were like, "Whoa, okay, 50 basis points." That's So, and I guess the big signal in that is that the Bank of England is not confident that they've got a handle on inflation. Headline inflation's at 8.7%, which is that's high. That's definitely too high. Sort of the troubling stat in that is the core inflation, which excludes energy and some other volatiles, that picked up from 6.8% in April to 7.1% in May, and driven by services. So that's going in the wrong direction. That's definitely not a good sign.
Which one do we look at? Like, which one do we care about more? Is it core? Like, because I keep hearing core and headline and whatever being reported, and I never know which one to care about. Like one of them, I mean, I don't really care about either. But if we're having a scoreboard that people can understand, why do we keep separating them out? Why don't we just go, keep tracking one? Doesn't one tell us all we need to know, or we really need to be looking at both?
We really need to be looking at both. I mean, we look at core inflation. The RBA cares about underlying inflation. Core inflation gets to that idea. And basically, like, headline inflation can get bumped around by some one-off things which have nothing to do with the underlying strength of the economy. Like, there was that story last week about Beyonce's concert in Sweden had jacked up hotel prices so much that it showed up in the monthly CPI.
Yeah.
See, so core inflation helps you look through that kind of noise.
So why report it then? Is it because it is headline making? Because because Beyonce makes even economics sexy.
Because those one-off things that throw it around are one-off by nature. Yeah, they're random and they come from random places.
Yeah.
And underlying helps you, underlying core inflation, sometimes it'll exclude specific things which are choppy, like food prices are often choppy, so it might exclude those, or it'll just exclude anything that just moved too much in the month.
Right.
So anything excluding what they call quote volatile items. So in that case, that core measure you could have a core measure that would have just excluded hotels in Sweden for the month, but it's going to be a different thing next month.
Yeah, so I guess maybe another way of phrasing it is, if we just looked at core inflation, would we be missing out on anything?
No, but it's not as clean a definition as your headline inflation, because you're manually adjusting the numbers.
Okay, right.
So you have the potential to introduce some value questions about what you include, what you exclude. Headline just doesn't do any of that; it just takes everything in the basket and. Yeah, it looks a lot like
right. Okay. Yeah. Gotcha. All right. That makes sense. All right. So back to the Bank of England.
Yes. So inflation's not under control, and they're not happy with it. So
why was it so surprising? Were they because of that history, or because of the tailing off, or
because of the tailing off? I guess that also sort of talked it up a bit, saying yep, we're on top of inflation.
It's always, you never want to start showboating before the finish line. We've seen too many. There's too many Facebook videos and YouTube videos out there of people doing the early celebration.
Yeah. I mean, it's a bit awkward because it's sort of it feels a bit panicky. It feels a bit like the banking was like, we were slowing things down. We were 50 bips historically is a very big movement. It's quite unusual. Typically, we move in 25 basis point increments. 50 is quite a large number. So to drop that on us suddenly, it feels a bit panicky, and it's a bit feeling like dad's not in control of the hold'em. And
Phil Lowe hasn't been starting a side hustle consulting work kind of practice. Right? This feels like straight out of the Phil Lowe playbook of shock and awe. And
he's got his eyes on the exit.
He's just doing some moonlighting for the Bank of England as they were winding things down. He came in with, "Have you thought about ramping things up again, just to keep things edgy?"
Yeah.
Is it just an England thing? Is it just a...
No. So one thing, we did get a pause out of the Fed last week. So after, I think, 15 straight hikes in a row, we got a pause last week, which everyone was like, oh, good, we've come to the end of that journey. But then the Jerome Powell fronted Congress, I think, and one thing the Fed does there is they publish the governor's estimates of where interest rates are going to be by the end of the year.
Yeah.
And everyone says 5.6%, which is up, 50 basis points from where they are now. So the market sort of looked at and went okay, everyone in the Fed thinks we need at least another 2 hikes. We're not actually done yet.
And the BOE just went, let's do it now. Why don't we just do it now? What's the worst? Okay, we'll just do it now, get it out of the way.
I think why the Bank of England move is so interesting is I think it's they're facing the same problem that everyone is facing, and that's a question of how sticky is inflation going to be. It seems to have peaked in the US and Australia and New Zealand, but it's not coming down quickly. And the Bank of England says that there's lags there, and the things that drove up inflation, then it's not going to be as quick on the way down. They won't unwind as quickly, which, then that raises the prospect that inflation is going to be much more sticky than they're expecting, which means rates need to be higher than we're thinking. Yeah, so it's that's what sort of shook global markets, because if the Bank of England can do that, and they're facing the exact same pitch as other central banks, maybe the global hiking cycle isn't over yet.
They got inflation really early, didn't they? England, though, they were weren't they ahead of the rest of the world?
Maybe a touch.
when that Prime Minister that was in for 5 minutes was around. What was her name? Liz Truss. When she was in, weren't they already in a bit of a...
Inflation was quite high then, yeah.
They were already sort of panicking and talking about defaults on different things. And
it is higher. It has been higher than Australia, we're at 7%. So it has been higher, but it's consistently higher. And then if your target's 2 to 3%, where if you're at 7 or 8.7,
Yeah.
you're still just missing.
That's a tough one-on-one with the boss, isn't it? When you're like, so just having our weekly catch-up. How are we looking?
How'd you go with inflation this week?
How'd you go with inflation this week? Our target likes to be 2 to 3, so I just thought I'd check in and see how we're... All right, Thomas, I wanted to talk to you about, we've got a really interesting listener question came in this week. Basically saying, we had a bit of chat the last couple of weeks about baby boomers and their crazy spending habits, that they're just out there making it rain. This person says, I'm in a pretty fortunate financial position. I want to know, if I stop spending, can I help slow down inflation? Or should I keep spending to keep small businesses afloat, like when we all got takeout in lockdown? And so I think it raises a really interesting question. If inflation's a problem and we don't want to be a part of that problem, but then a recession is likely and that's going to affect businesses, but we want us to do the right thing and support small business, what do we do?
Yeah, it's a great question. Bless her for taking that on. Sadly, there isn't really anything you can do.
Bloody knew you were going to say this.
Yeah. I mean, probably the thing to do is stop spending now, put all that money in a jar, and then commit to spend it at hospitality venues and arts and recreation venues on the other side. Well, once inflation's over and we're in recession.
But you can't, because your money being saved up is just going to be eroded by inflation. So you don't want to just put it in a jar.
Well, no. If the question is, how do I support the Australian nation and pay people in it right now, if that's your only concern, and you're feeling kind of flush at the moment, the thing I think you'd want to do is stick that money aside, not spend it because you're contributing to inflation if you are spending it. And then when we break the back of inflation, and then we're probably going to end up in recession, then once that happens, then get out and spend it.
Get out and support
small businesses, support your cafe, support your local theatre, whatever that is. That's probably the best that you can do. Because the thing is, like, it's bitter medicine, a rate hike cycle. Like, we need to see, like Michelle Bullock, who's the assistant governor at the RBA, who, potentially the next governor, she was out saying that the unemployment rate needs to go up to like 5.5% before we're back at like a neutral level or something where we're not accelerating inflation. And that's like 150 to 200,000 jobs that need to be lost.
Yeah, right.
So that's the medicine we need to take. Somehow we need to push 200,000 people into unemployment, which for that to happen, we need to, wind up maybe 50 to 100,000 businesses.
So stop spending now, let people who work in the businesses lose their jobs, then go to the business that doesn't have any workers anymore and say, I want 9 coffees, please.
And then complain about the service.
That seems a pretty terrible system.
Yes. It is a kind of a terrible system. And this has been the big sort of wake-up call for me watching this play out. Like, this is the first time, like, the COVID boom and bust has been such an epic cycle and so quickly. Like, I don't think we've never seen such a pronounced economic cycle happen over such a short time frame.
Yeah.
And so you really kind of clock what's going on. And the thing that I've been, you watch what happens, like, it affects different people very differently on the way up and on the way down. So, like, when the pandemic hit and the government flooded the economy with money and dropped interest rates to the floor, those record low interest rates created a boom in asset prices. So stocks boomed.
Crypto
boomed. I said assets. Adam, actually. Yeah, crypto boomed. Houses and the share market all went nuts. If you owned assets, which puts you in the wealthier half of the population, that was great news. If you didn't own assets, that didn't really help you at all. And what you got with that flood of cash coming into the market, with coming into a supply-constrained rental market, is you create inflation. And that's what we know about inflation and money. Like, when money enters a sector of the economy where supply is constrained, it pushes up prices. And so all that money came into the rental market, and rental prices exploded, like going over 10%, for almost 2 years now. Like, that's a huge pace of growth in rental prices. So if you're a battler didn't own a lot, you didn't have a huge share portfolio, you didn't own a rental property, maybe didn't own your own home, all you got was a massive increase in your rental prices. And so you got some extra money, but all of that just got eaten up by competition in the rental market. So you didn't really come out ahead.
Yeah.
So there's a big, imbalance there. And then on the other side of that, now we're trying to tame inflation. We're trying to jack up interest rates to slow things down. Again, that has a very different impact on where you sit, whether you're a battler or whether you're sitting cozy. If you're a battler, like, you bought at the peak of the housing cycle, and now interest rates are off and away. We've already had enough interest rates that have pushed servicing levels past the buffers that people would have got their mortgages at in 2020 and 2021. So when you go for a mortgage, the bank looks at your serviceability and says, can you survive at this interest rate, and can you survive at that interest rate plus 3%? To sort of like to get a sense of what your capacity is. That 3% is meant to be the worst case scenario. So it's like, yep, you can afford it now, and in the worst case scenario, where interest rates go up 3%, are you still going to be okay?
Yeah, and then the RBA comes in, hold my beer, and we're away.
Yeah. And that 3% in normal times serves you well, because 3% might happen, but it might happen over 5 years. So your wages are going to go up. You're going to pay down some of your debt anyway. You're going to build up some equity. That hasn't happened for borrowers, people who bought in 2020, 2021, because they haven't paid down equity. House prices have fallen. So they haven't built up equity. House prices have fallen, and now interest rates have gone up 4%. So they're getting smashed. If you own your own home and you own lots of stocks, and you benefited from the boom in share prices, and you're doing well, it doesn't touch you. So you're all good. Do you see what I mean? So like on both sides of the cycle, the battlers get
the raw end of the deal. That's so maybe instead of supporting small business, you should just go and find someone who took out a home loan in the last 2 years. See if you can just supplement their their repayments.
Shared equity scheme or something.
Offer your neighbour to buy 10% of their house if you're doing well. No, they won't appreciate that. Don't do that. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So
that's the thing that's jumped out at me in this is it's like it's the system ratchets with every economic cycle. Inequality ratchets and doesn't go up and down. It just goes up and then up and then up and then up. And this is sort of the classic thing about capitalism. Like, it does some things very well, but it has an inbuilt tendency towards inequality and for power and wealth to accumulate in fewer and fewer hands. And it just has a natural tendency to do that because of the way the rules are set up.
Can we do it better? Like, is that?
I like to think so. I like to think so. I mean, there's a lot of people out there spending a lot of time trying to think about how to do it better. Like, you might have heard of Karl Marx, for example.
Not for a while.
Yeah, it's been a bit quiet. He's resting on his laurels too.
He had his time in the sun.
But there's a lot of people now in universities and whatever trying to come up with better ways to do it. But it's very hard to sort of build the political momentum to shift the fundamental rules of the game.
There was a lot of talk in COVID about money printing.
Oh, modern monetary theory.
There was the movement, and a lot of the defenders of the movement of modern monetary theory, which has gone very quiet, mind you. I haven't heard. I mean, in my news feed anyway. But the Ashes is on. But a lot of the defenders of modern monetary theory were out saying, no, it won't cause inflation. It won't cause inflation. But that's exactly what we did, and seemingly it's exactly what happened.
Yes, yeah. I mean, the modern monetary theorists never recommended printing $1 gazillion and flooding it all into the economy in a single dose. It's a bit. You can't sort of blame modern monetary theory for that. That wasn't particularly a policy prescription. And I kind of think like a lot of the basic tenets bore out. Like, we got inflation in sectors where they were supply constrained. A lot of what sparked inflation seemed to be supply chain bottlenecks. Like, that's where inflation first showed up. And then from there, it kind of spread.
Yeah, true.
So, I don't know necessarily, obviously having way too much money in the system made the problem worse. But
Okay.
I'm not sure that it sparked the problem even.
I think we have got off topic from the initial question, which was what can I do about it? And I guess the short answer is not much.
Not much.
I did think you could, if you go to a cafe for dinner or for lunch or whatever, just don't order dessert. Like, see if you can walk the narrow path of have lunch. Don't order like a little ice cream or something afterwards. Just leave after lunch. You keep supporting the business, but not. And there's health benefits to that as well. Yeah. So
we'll all got to make sacrifices.
That's my recommendation. All right, let's take a break here. We'll grab a word from this week's sponsor. Back after the break, talking Best and Less and Aldi. It's supermarket shopping time on CVE. Back with more right after this. Welcome back. You're on Comedian versus Economist. We are taking a couple of months off after this week, but you can send us an email if you like, cve@equitymates.com, or via the website, equitymates.com/CVE, and we will endeavour to get back to you. If not during the break, then when we get back. Thomas, there was a trading update from Best and Less last week. What did you learn?
It didn't show up in your feed?
Not in my feed again. My feed is chock-a-block full of Ash's commentary. It's fair to say.
No, we got a trading update from Best and Less, and another warning. Effectively, they're saying that their same-store sales are down 13.2% in the past 5 weeks. So that's sort of going over a cliff, those sales, which is kind of what we're expecting. You know, the puzzle is that it hasn't happened sooner. We've had, close to 400 basis points of hikes in a year or so. Like, it was surprising that the consumer was so resilient. Looks like the consumer's buckling now. So down 13.2% in 5 weeks. That's pretty sharp. Yeah, and there's just a bunch of them now making these warnings. So Best and Less follows Baby Bunting, favourite of yours, Adairs, Universal Store, Rebel Sport, BCF, Donut King, Domino's
Donut King?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've struck a chord.
And Domino's Pizza as well. Like, Domino's Pizza got hammered. Yeah, they're saying that their earnings are down 23%, and they're cutting 100 stores. Shutting down 100 of their 900 odd stores.
Right. So those are the job losses that we talked about needing to have.
Yeah. No. That's right. That's what this. This is the cycle working. This is
right.
the medicine having its effect.
I know we just talked about it, but it's very difficult to be happy about it. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like this is it's good news. Stores are closing. It's Best and even less now. No, that's right. That's the system we've got, and the people who bear the pain on the way up and on the way down are the same people. It's people working Domino's and things. It's broadly good news for the economy. It's what you want to be seeing. That'll help bring down inflation. But if you're working at one of these places, it sucks. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Is it just a sort of retail story, or that's what we're looking at?
Yeah, that's what we're looking at for now. That's where it's showing up. I mean, this is like discount retailing is where you expect is discretionary, like your Rebel Sport, BCF, Donut King. It's all discretionary spending. And that's where you expect to see rate hikes bite first. Yeah, and so we're seeing it now. It's come late, but it's happening. So, there is a chance that the RBA looks at this and goes, okay, good. The rate hikes are having their desired impact. Maybe we don't need to do a Bank of England. We can just chill for a bit. But we'll have to see.
I think we're still on for a rate hike. That's my mail from a very reliable source at the RBA. All right, Thomas, people are flocking to Aldi, it seems. What's going on?
Yeah, the Wall Street Journal had an interesting article the other day, saying that Aldi's doing well in the US. But what they were noticing was that there's been a pickup in middle and high income earners.
Right.
Yeah, going to their stores. Yeah, they had an interview.
How do they know?
I think all those loyalty programs.
Check the car park. See what cars are pulling up. That's the third Mercedes this week.
These stores have a lot of ways to capture your data and understand, unless you're paying in cash. I think there's a good chance they've got a good handle on who you are.
Hey, there was a guy that worked at the photo booth at Harvey Norman once. I bought some photos. I remember it because I bought 3 photos that cost me like 18 cents. And I wanted to pay on card. And he's like, you can't pay on card. It's a minimum $2 spend. And I was like, what? You sell individual photos. Like, I didn't get angry, obviously, but in my mind, I'm like, you sell individual photos. You're Harvey Norman. Surely you could wear the credit card cost occasionally when someone comes in just to print off 3 photos. And you can wear the credit card transaction cost of that instance of that happening. But anyway, I said to the guy, I'm like, that's frustrating because I don't carry cash anymore. You know, we pay for card with everything now. And he's like, this was the weird bit. He was like, not me. I'm never paying for card for anything. I'm always going to use cash. And I was like, this was pre-COVID. And so I often think of him as we move entirely to COVID. But his whole, I used to see him on the train sometimes too, and he'd be reading like these kind of, I don't know, like doomsday kind of books. And so I think he had some sort of maybe he was a bit of a conspiracy theorist type person. But his concern, I think, was tracking. And I do think about it often now, going, we are very trackable now, very trackable in terms of our spending habits. And as you say, correlating that whatever we spend at Aldi, maybe with other things, rewards programs, wherever it is. Yeah, and it's harder. It's really hard to spend cash now. It's harder, but it's also just physically harder. Like, it's a pain to carry it around.
Yeah, so they're seeing a rise in high middle class earners. The Dollar Tree, which is like a dollar shop, $1, $2 shop in America, their CEO reckons they've seen more people earning $80,000 a year have been visiting their stores.
I'll have 80,000 lollipops. Your finest $1 lollipops, please.
It was funny on his earnings call. You're saying, we're seeing a rise in high income earners and more core customers visiting more frequently, even though we've increased our anchor price from $1 to $1.25.
What are they called? They're called Dollar Store, aren't they?
Yeah, Dollar Tree.
Yeah. Dollar Tree. Yeah, $1.25 tree.
$1.25 tree, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. For me, like, I don't know if there's so much a sign of the economic times. Like, as you're saying, like, people who are quite wealthy aren't feeling the pinch, aren't feeling too much pain from rate hikes. But I think it does say something interesting about wealthy consumers. Like, there's a myth that they don't care about value for money.
Oh, God, no.
No,
I don't think that's a myth.
Right, yeah. Well, no, yeah. All the wealthy people I know are very conscious about value for money, even though they don't need to be, but they're still, they're not just blowing money for...
No, it's that old thing, like, you don't get rich by spending all your money, like, so you have to, they obviously made it. They wouldn't have, well, maybe in some cases they were born with money, but... you earn money, you're conscious about where you're spending it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
I don't know. Has Aldi become cool as well? I feel like Aldi is a little bit cool.
A little bit. It does. It's definitely not budget sort of,
no, it kind of is.
Rung kind of thing.
I do enjoy perusing the Aldi Special Buys catalogue.
Yeah. No,
I bought a jacket from Aldi the other day. I'm not too proud to wear an Aldi jacket.
Yeah, right. There you go.
It was a snow jacket. I'm not even going to the snow. It's just getting really cold here. And maybe that's a sign of me getting older and getting like, ooh, it's that winter chill. I don't care what it is. I just need a warm coat.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got an Aldi jacket.
The other thing that's like someone was saying in this report is that like part of it's about conspicuous consumption. So like if you're going to spend $10,000 on a handbag, you want people to know you've spent $10,000 on a handbag. So you need all that Louis Vuitton branding all over it, like totally cover the whole thing with it, even though it looks stupid. It's really important people know how much money you've spent on it.
I consciously made sure there wasn't a single mention of Aldi anywhere on my jacket. That was one of the criteria for buying it. I can definitely wear this without people just going. Although, what was interesting also, I don't want to make this show about what's in the Aldi Special Buys catalogue. But in the catalogue this week, I noticed that there was an umbrella. And the umbrella was, I think, $14 for a large umbrella. And we've been looking for a large umbrella, as luck would have it. But there was 2 options for the large umbrella. There was one that was like just a plain coloured large umbrella. And there was another one which was Aldi blue with an Aldi logo on it.
Oh, yeah.
And it was the same price. And I was like, who's buying for the same price the one with the massive Aldi logo on it? But to my earlier point, Aldi, maybe cool. Aldi's cool. A bit like Bunnings. Bunnings is a bit cool.
Oh, yeah.
People wear Bunnings stuff now, I've noticed.
They wear stuff.
And maybe this is a sign of inflation and things as well, is that what's cool is actually coming down. So Bunnings is cool. You know, there's going to be people walking around like price attack shirts. But maybe that's another byproduct of inflationary and high cost of living is what's cool because that's what the kids are wearing.
Yeah.
Bit of a subculture or whatever you call it around.
We need to
budget
print up
stores.
some home brand T-shirts.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, but that's the point. The point the article was making, which I thought was an interesting one, is that people, high wealth people, will spend money on stuff that people can recognise, where there's a clear differentiation from the basic product. But for an ordinary thing, like you're just buying vegetables or a carrot or a pen, there's no point overpaying. So why not go to a dollar shop?
True. Speaking of luxury stuff, we talked about last week on the show, and I put forward my theory around that we should tax luxury items. Ryan sent us an email, a long-time fan of the show, wanted to expand on the title of the email, I should point out, is The Non-Economist Might Be Onto Something, which I'll take that as a win. Adam's idea sounds good in theory to take additional cash out of the economy targeted at those who can afford to do so. But in addition, what if the government were to use this revenue from the luxury tax specifically to buy back their treasury bonds from the RBA? I'm sorry, you've lost me now, Ryan. Would this assist with quantitative tightening? Perhaps this temporary tax measure, or a lever that we pull when the proverbial is really hitting the fan. Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, I like you were talking about this last week. I like the direction of the idea. I tried to do a little searching, like just what share of consumption is luxury or is defined as luxury. I couldn't find any data on that on the first page of Google. Didn't get to the second.
That's some solid research, though. Don't beat yourself up about it. That's you've gone above and beyond. Did you scroll to the bottom?
Yeah, all the way.
Well, you've done all that anyone reasonably could expect.
Yeah, but I think one is like it's kind of hard to define what a luxury is. So like what's a luxury watch? You need to define what's a normal watch, and then you need to define a luxury watch. We've got that definition already. There was an article I read today about Jacob & Co., which is some brand that like rich people and rappers wear, and it's coming to Australia. And you can get a watch starting at $35,000 or up to 1,000 times that, which is whatever that is. 35 million. It seems excessive for a watch. Yeah, right. Yeah.
But that's an expensive watch. Like surely we could put our heads together and tax that somehow, or
well, I mean, so you do that and say, okay, your $35,000 watch is a luxury item, we're going to tax it. And they say, no, there's $35,000 worth of engineering that's gone into that product. I don't know if you can tax quality. You know, like you're saying like it's not a normal watch. There's better engineering gone into it.
Yeah, but if you're doing your tax return for the year, right, and you're a train station attendant who needs, what do they call them? Conductor on the platform. And it's really important that for your job, you know what time it is. Right? And you you do your tax return for the year, and on your tax return, you list a Jacob & Co. watch for $35,000 and try and claim that against your income for the year, which also happens to be $35,000, then the tax department surely would go, oi, we get that you need a watch for your...
What grounds though? Like that's pretty value stat. Like you can make the argument like, no, I really need a precision watch for my job. I mean, if the employer is not providing it, I think you could make that case. It's, no, I really need a high-end precision watch to do my job effectively.
I'd love to see Adelaide Metro roll out Jacob & Co. watches as part of their company-issued watches to the train conductors.
Yeah.
This is what this is, though. This is just an example of society really not trying hard enough, if that's the case.
Yeah.
Surely we can come up with...
Sure is. Yeah. I mean, maybe you just say you pick but you got to do it for every item in the economy, for every watch, for every bottle of wine, for every car, for everything. You got to say this is the median price, and then whatever. If you deviate above that, X% gets taxed. It's it's doable in a data age. It's doable.
Yeah.
The other thing I wonder about, which I don't know, is if that's really because we're talking about taxing he's dropping 35K on a watch. We're talking about the top 1%.
Yeah.
Does the top 1% consume enough to create a tax base that's really going to shift the entire economy? Do you know what I mean?
I don't know.
I doubt it, but I couldn't find good data on it.
Yeah, I didn't. Well, don't ask me. I didn't even scroll to the bottom of the search results page.
Yeah.
But it's got more. Some money's better than no money. Or maybe you're saying that the cost of implementing such a system might actually. This would be classic government, wouldn't it? If the cost of the system to evaluate and set the thresholds for watch purchases, the cost of implementing that system grossly outweighed the revenue that came back from the taxing of the watches.
Yeah, you'd have to pay PricewaterhouseCoopers $10 million for a PowerPoint presentation telling you it's going to work.
I'm not sure they're going to be invited back to the government anytime soon.
Yeah. No, speaking of dollar stores, they just sold their government consulting business for $1.
For $1, yeah. I heard. Yeah,
maybe they got it at Dollar Tree.
What? If they waited a week, they could have sold it for $1.25. Idiots. Finally, very finally on the show this week, Tom, was it Tom? Yeah, Tom sent us an email on the work from home debate. Interested in your thoughts on the idea that companies are mandating 5 days in the office, knowing this will go down like a lead balloon, as a way to trim their workforce and get a certain percentage to resign without having to lay people off. Interesting. Thomas, do you think this could be possible? I'm guessing that most contracts, when they were set up for at least existing employees, probably didn't allow for working from home or didn't stipulate you could, and that it was all probably given. Would companies be so sinister?
Yeah.
Surely not.
Yes. Answer that is yes. No, I mean, it's potentially, like I think it's right. It's a good way to reduce your head count, because you're just saying like, this is what you got to do. This is what you've always got to do. And people can just go, nah, I'm leaving. You don't have to pay them severance or anything. So potentially that does reduce your head count. Whether, maybe it's worth, if you're thinking about it, maybe it's like, well, let's just roll this out and see. I don't think, like we covered it last week, it's emerging. The evidence seems to suggest there's really solid reasons to have work in place from a business's perspective. They have a strong preference for it now. So I think it's there. But I mean, could definitely be a thing. I mean, it's also one of those things that, what's the selection basis that you introduce with a system like that? Like if you bring everyone back and then you lose everyone who's not willing to come back to the office, you probably end up losing the people who are back, have better skill sets, are willing to try their hand in the labour market.
Oh yeah, but yeah, maybe that's true of any sort
voluntary redundancy system.
Well, I guess If you do voluntary redundancies, you always risk losing the good people who know that they can just go and get a job somewhere else. I guess I just wonder if this is a symptom or this is indicative of the shoe now is firmly on the other foot. Like, so employees were kind of making demands for a while saying, I'm not going to, you need to offer work from home or I'm not going to come and work for you, and you need to pay me more and you need to let me work from home because we know the job market's so tight. Like maybe this kind of talk is just, I don't know if it's fact. I don't know if people are actually considering this or not. I think Ryan just heard it somewhere. Tom heard it somewhere as well. Maybe that now employees are losing the bargaining power. They're kind of going, well, actually now's not the best time to be losing my job. And if my company starts mandating 5 days a week in the office, then maybe it's incumbent on me to try and make that work and not just, not just quit in a huff. Despite I do encourage, I do like that approach. I'm always a fan of any time anyone can go out in a ball of flames. I think is always entertaining for those of us left behind. So don't rule it out. All right, I reckon that does us for this week and for a couple of months. We will be away, but we hope that you'll join us again on CVE. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast wherever you get your podcast feeds. That way we will pop up unannounced, as we like to do, back in your feed as soon as we're back online. And we hope you'll join us then. Until then, it's bye for now.
You have been listening to an Equity Mates Media production. In the spirit of reconciliation, Equity Mates Media acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. This podcast is intended for education and entertainment purposes. Any advice is general advice only and has not taken into account your personal financial circumstances, needs, or objectives. Before acting on general advice, you should consider if it is relevant to your needs and read the relevant product disclosure statement. And if you're unsure, please speak to a financial professional. The hosts of this podcast and their guests may have positions in the companies mentioned. Equity Mates Media operates under an Australian Financial Services Licence 540697.